that rolls us nicely onto for ICG, where you're currently the chairman, and who very kindly provided the venue. So a little plug for ICG on the film for today. What was I going to say? It's a super interesting company, but one of the most interesting things about the company is that it's a 4-day week. Is that correct?
Yeah, 4-day week.
Right. This is a tough one for me. I'm still there. I think I'm still a young guy, but I got an old-fashioned mindset. Sell me the 4-day week.
I'll ask you a question about this in a minute, but the principle, I think it was 2016 it was introduced, and the fact of the matter is it was looked at to say, should we consider working a 4-day week, so people who hit their weekly targets on a Thursday, should we just say you don't have to come in on a Friday as a reward? And then we realised people who don't hit their targets by a Thursday don't hit their targets by the end of a Friday either. So we felt in order to create the right culture in the business, our tactic would be, you're going to be paid for 5 days, but you don't have to come in on a Friday. You can choose to come in if you want, so that puts the obligation on some people to feel they've not quite met what their expectations were of them. So some people do come in on a Friday, but it's totally their choice. There's no pressure. And that's everyone from the managing director down. But if I had to ask you, how far do you think a sprinter can travel in a minute? What would you think?
Good sprinter, probably about half a kilometre.
So 500 metres would be the max. That would be world record breaking speed. Yeah. So therefore, if you can travel 500 metres in a minute, in 10 minutes you should be able to do 5,000 metres. Is that right?
No, because the performance tails off.
So the performance tails off. So therefore, we know that in actual fact, it's 45% longer to be able to proportionately to do that 5,000 metres as opposed to 500. So we understand from a physical environment why we can't go sprinting forever because we'll run out of energy. It's physically not possible. And yet mentally we say, oh, but mentally it doesn't matter. You can mentally sprint forever. So we expect people to work really long hours and to proportionately perform. The reality is that's not true physically, and it's certainly not true mentally either. So there's an optimum amount of time that someone will work, and I'm not sure if it's even 4 days. I think there's a lot to be said for part-time working where you job share and perhaps you get 2 people to come in for 3 hours, 3.5 hours each. The danger with that is just like a relay team can run 4 100-metre slots quicker than one person could run one, as long as the changeover is smooth and slick, and that requires a kind of F1 pit stop, attention to detail. So for me, this is about experimenting with how we can get people to sprint, how we can get people to hand the baton over as they sprint to make sure no one drops the baton. That's the most, it's working less has more efficacy in it than working more. And as I remember one chap in the oil industry saying that he had started working in Sweden, which was pretty liberal in its laws about working, and he worked longer to show the boss he was keen. And after a month, his boss sat him down and said, we're rather concerned about your abilities. And he was thinking, wow, I've shown commitment. It's because it seems to take you much longer to do your work during a day than anyone else. Where do you feel you need training? So he was being criticised for staying longer rather than being rewarded. And in some respects, that's a philosophy I think we've got to get our head round. Yeah. And it demands a good deal of trust in organisation, but one thing, you have to manage people differently in these situations.
What's been the difference in productivity since you started this, since you rolled this out?
Started off with 37% increase in productivity, which means someone working 4 days produced 37% more than they did in 5 days.
Wow.
Which you think, wow, that's incredible. But in a sprinting analogy, that would be true. And it settled down to about 30%. The challenge for management is, rather than managing input, which is attendance, so are they all at their desk? Are they all look like they're working? You have to manage output. What are they achieving? Because in actual fact, input is a means to an end, and that end is output. Yeah. You don't want to know how hard someone's tried to do something. You want to know, have they achieved the objective? Therefore, you have to change your management style to managing output rather than input. And that demands a bit of a shift change from a mindset point of view.